Okay, it's 6 o'clock, and I'd like to call the Long Lake Township Board meeting to order, May 13th, 2014. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Rosa,
Here.
Garvin,
Here.
Wagner, Hoffman is here, Schaub,
Here.
Maney is absent and excused, and Litterson.
Here.
We have a quorum of the board. I would like to take this time to welcome our student from West High School. He's here for his civics class, so welcome to our meeting.
Thank you.
Public comment? Yes, Peter?
No, I don't have anything as far as Long Lake Association, but I did have a couple of things I'd like to bring to your attention. So this is my own personal, not the Long Lake Association.
Oh, okay.
One is, I noticed that the bank you use looks like it's Bank One. Is that right?
No, we use Chase.
Okay, well, it was Bank One.
Oh, okay.
Your form says Bank One.
Oh,
so-
okay.
Just a little thought, Traverse City State Bank is the only community bank left in the Grand Traverse area. And for what it's worth, it might be of interest to give business to our only community bank. I might add, I'm a stock shareholder there, so I'm not biased. But even if it wasn't the case, I would certainly suggest that. I'll make my own disclosure. Second thing is, I noticed in my charter or bill to this month, and it's probably there before, but it caught my eye, and it says franchise authority, Township of Long Lake, Township clerk, and gives the address and phone number. So I took it upon myself, and I don't know how often, Karen, you and I have talked about this before, but I don't remember how often it is that this franchise agreement is addressed. Do you recall? Which,
I'm sorry.
the franchise agreement.
When it is addressed?
How often?
We looked that up. I don't remember when the expiration date of that was. Right now, I don't recall, but I have a
Okay.
copy of it.
Okay.
It's like 20 years, but it's a non-exclusive contract.
What, Sonny?
It's like a 20-year franchise agreement, I believe, but it's non-exclusive. So if another cable company came in, unless the township has changed this since
You were on board, huh?
I think I wrote the first franchise agreement, so I'm pretty sure that it's a non-exclusive, but this time there's no competition here anyway.
Well, anyhow, what I'd like to bring, I just by happenstance, happen to have my consumer report, okay, and one of the lead articles was on cable TV. So I printed out for your perusal the ratings that Charter has in the bundled TV service, internet service, phone service. And I'm going to give this to you for your consideration. But because I think that part of this charter, this franchise agreement should be some standard of service and satisfactory service, and besides that, their prices have gone up of recent with this idea of going from analog to digital boxes for everybody. And there seems to be no control over these people. And there's no relationship between the franchise and the quality of service that they have to perform. So that's Consumers Reports evaluation of Charter. Okay. And so I'd ask that maybe give that some thought next time that comes up. That is Matt going to be speaking tonight on Timbers?
He is ill tonight.
Oh, he is? Okay.
So he wasn't able to come.
Okay,
I
I was
just found out
interested.
today. So.
Okay. Are you going to speak a little bit about the status of that?
We're going to talk about the road improvement
Okay.
down here, but that's probably all right now.
Okay,
tonight.
thank you.
Sure. Any other public comment at this time? Mark?
I'd be remiss if I didn't make this statement. Mark McKellar, I'm a Director of Business Development for Members Credit Union in Traverse City, Michigan. You know where I'm going with that. We just heard the comment about going to a community bank. Out of the 6 credit unions in our community, 4 of them are in our community. They're 100% owned by their members, and they are community-based. Should you ever have any consideration in the future of wanting to move the municipal account, any one of them would be glad to speak to you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Anyone else like to speak? Yes.
I'll just stand if that's
Sure,
okay.
that's fine.
I'm John Roth. I'm running for county commissioner for this district, Grand Traverse County.
Okay.
District 4, who's Mr. Wheelak's district. It is Mr. Wheelak's district. Long Lake, all of them, and half of west side of Green Lake Township is also in that district.
Okay.
My wife and I both live in the township here in Long Lake. We've been here 24 years. I'm currently on the Parks and Recreation Commission. One of their members. We always have a fun meeting every month, so I've learned to battle a little bit. I was pretty instrumental here recently in keeping Twin Lakes open for swimming. One of our county commissioners actually tried to close the swimming there, and I fought pretty hard to keep it open. So I just want to introduce myself and my face with my name so that I'm not a mystery person. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, if not, we will move on to our consent calendar. Hi, Dan.
Sorry, I was minutes late.
That's okay.
Under the consent calendar, we have Township Board minutes of April 8th, regular meeting, April 30th, special meeting, Treasurer's report dated March 31st, 2014, Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Department report, Zoning Department report, Planners report, and Grand Traverse Fire report. Does anyone wish to have anything else or have any of those pulled from the agenda for further consideration?
If not, would someone make a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Madam Chairman, I'll support it.
Leonardson and Wagner. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried to approve the agenda as stands. Item 6 is, I'm sorry, move to approve the consent calendar. I'm ahead of myself. Sorry about that. Approval of the agenda. I have no changes to the agenda this evening.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Wagner?
I'll support.
Schaub? Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 6 is conflict of interest. Is there anything on the agenda, which is not much on the agenda, that would be a conflict of interest for anyone? Hearing none, we will move on to special reports. Commissioner Wheelock?
Good evening. I guess the big discussion right now at the county, other than the day-to-day business, is the overcrowded condition of our jail. There's been a number of news articles and news reports about such a thing. If you will remember back 2004, 2005, the county appointed a Blue Ribbon Jail Committee to review our jail needs. At that time, it was deemed that if we could put 40 beds in the space that was vacated when the city police and the sheriff's office moved out of that building into the law enforcement center on Woodmere, if we could put 40 beds in there, it would be a short-term fix. We did that, but here we are 10 years later, and we have an overcrowding situation. We are housing probably on the average of 20 prisoners a day in either Leland or Charlevoix County. Comments have been made, well, you're paying $30 a day to house that prisoner, and it costs you $56 a day to house them in the county jail. The problem is the $30 a day is not a realistic number because it doesn't include any transportation costs, it doesn't include any medical costs of those prisoners. It also doesn't take into consideration that those other jails will only take the best of the best prisoners. They will not take any prisoner with institutional problems or behavioral problems, no prisoners with mental health issues. And right now, the average the average of our jail population is somewhere between 60 and 80% have some mental issues. So, you know, when we talk about taking prisoners to other counties, it becomes very difficult about who can go and who they will take. Captain Hall was telling us the other night that he and Lieutenant Monroe, because they were the only ones available that day, took a van load to Charlevoix. By the time they got back to his office, he already had a call from Charlevoix County to come and get one of them because they weren't fitting in. You know, so then you turn around, you send 2 deputies back to Charlevoix to get that prisoner. That costs money. You know, we have a 26-bed work release jail facility. You know, the Outback, whatever you want to call it. It's a refurbished portable classroom that we all used to see at the elementary schools and the junior highs. That's what that facility was originally built as. It is less than minimum security. It can only be used, it's only licensed by the Department of Corrections to house work release prisoners. Currently, we have 3 people in the Grand Traverse County Jail that qualify for work release. So it doesn't make any sense for us to man that station, man that facility 24 hours a day to have 3 prisoners out there. The labor cost is too high. So right now our population, there should be 191, 192, depending on how prisoners classify, is realistically 162. Last week on Tuesday, I think we had 227. So that's a problem. Another thing is we looked at community corrections, if there's a way to expand that. I sat on the community corrections board. We are maxed out with addiction treatment services, the transition houses. They're 100% at capacity. You know, the possibility of citing another transition house in our community becomes very difficult because of the zoning regulations and all of those kind of things. And whether we could get contract with someone to operate it even if we did have the right prisoners. Almost 50% of our prisoners that are in the jail today are there for felonies. You know, that's not the way it used to be. You know, there's some pretty nasty folks in our county jail today. You know, and the overcrowding has become the problem. And the thing that we all have to remember about when we talk about the jail and the overcrowding, our first primary concern has to be the safety of both our staff and our prisoners. And when we get into this overcrowding situation, we cannot separate people properly because we don't have a place to put them. We are putting both the prisoners and our staff at risk. And that's not acceptable. If you may remember, in 2004, we participated in the National Institute of Corrections PONY program in Longmont, Colorado. They sent a team here, evaluated our jail needs, evaluated who was in our jail, why they were there, how long they'd been there, and they get right down to, you know, how many days they've been there, how many days they've got left there. National Institute of Corrections is sending another team here, June 21st, I believe they arrive here. They're going to meet with the judges, the commissioners, some community leaders as to, you know, where we see our jail needs long-term in our community. And then a team from here will participate in the PONY program out in Colorado. You know, obviously things have changed a lot in 10 years in the way jails are built and the way you classify prisoners. So that will happen probably in mid-August. I don't have the exact dates yet, but it'll be sometime in August. A team from here will go there. Roughly a half a dozen people to be the sheriff, the jail administrator, probably the county administrator, a couple commissioners. I'm not exactly sure who all will go. But, you know, we're moving forward, you know, at unfortunately what is probably considered glacial speed to move forward with the possibility of determining if we build a new jail. First, who all goes there? You know, are we building just a corrections facility? Are we building a facility for the sheriff and the law enforcement division to go into the same building? Are we building a facility to house juveniles? Completely different set of criteria if you're going to house juveniles there compared to adult prisoners. Absolutely have to have complete separation. They can't even walk down the same hallway. So there's those discussions. If we build a facility that the sheriff moves with, what happens with the city police? What happens with the law enforcement center that's on Woodmere? As you may remember, the city police, prior to the joining of the two facilities, were housed in the Front Street building adjacent to City Station 1, which is now, that area is now occupied by MSU Extension and the Commission on Aging. But that is a city building. The building on Woodmere belongs to Grand Traverse County. So, how that works out, we've started some discussions with the city manager and the mayor and the chief of police as to where they would see. We've met with the district court judges and the circuit court judges about what they see their need is. If the courts continue to stay where they are, which obviously they're going to stay where they are, can we meet the security needs of the courthouse if we take the jail away from them? It's all things that have to be taken into consideration. It's that glacial speed. I'd like to say, we bought the property down Lafreniere Road, let's just go build the damn 300-bed jail. But you can't do it that way. It's just, it's a very slow process. The Blue Ribbon Committee took about 13 months, if my memory is right. They came back with the idea that we could get 40 beds in the space that was vacated by the sheriff and the city police. But the long-term need was we needed 250 to 300 beds. That was 10 years ago. So is that number 300 today? Is it 325? A 300-bed jail is going to cost $30 million. Just round numbers. We've started putting together, as part of the capital improvement committee, we've started putting together ways that we can pay for it without having to do a millage, so as that the taxpayers will not see additional taxes to pay for this jail. But it's very complicated and it's slow going, But the infrastructure in the current jail is failing regularly, and the overcrowding is becoming a significant problem. If any of you would ever want to have a tour of the jail, let me know. I'll be happy to set it up. We're trying to put together something right now where we have Leah, obviously TC2, but it's not. It's Leah actually do a video tour of the jail, so as that we can show that on public television so people can understand the infrastructure problems that we have. Our jail is an old linear cell jail, so it's very manpower intensive to supervise the prisoners. One of our really huge problems right now is female prisoners. Our jail was designed for practical purposes to house a maximum of 16 women. With the 300 cells, one of them was 16 beds for men and 16 beds for women. Our current number for women is a little over 50. That's a problem. And those 50 women aren't all classified the same, so you certainly can't put them all together. Again, it's very important that we have cells available that we can separate prisoners based on their classification. And right now, 9 times out of 10, we do not have an adequate space to separate the prisoners that we need. So you'll hear more about the jail in the next few months. Everyone keeps telling me it takes 5 years to build a jail. I keep telling them we're going to get this one done in 3, but I don't know. We'll see. It's just, it takes a lot of time and it's very complicated. But the things that we have to do right now is we have to determine first who all's going to that facility, and then second, where we are going to site the facility. There's a big push by a small group of people, I guess I'll call it, to retain the jail where it's at. Well, in order to build a new jail where it's at, we're gonna take up basically that entire parking lot that's between the historic courthouse and the district court building, and we already don't have adequate parking in that site. Along with the fact, if it takes 2 years to construct the jail, where are we going to put the 200 prisoners that are in the existing jail for the 2 years while we build the other jail? You know, so it's complicated, it's complex, there's a lot of people have a lot of opinions, you know, and I'm always willing to listen to anybody's opinion. But, you know, I can't, at least in my mind, I cannot see any potential where we should be building this jail within the city of Traverse City. You know, so that becomes a problem. The city police will not move outside of the city for their police station.
Sounds like you got a lot of work ahead of you.
A little bit.
Any questions for Sonny?
Well, Sonny, I got a couple. What would happen if the sheriff and works right where they're working now? Is there any problem with that? I mean, he doesn't have to be at the
He
jail.
does not have to go. The sheriff has expressed his interest that he believes he should be with his corrections division, not separated.
Oh, well, he's separated now.
I know, but he's not happy about it.
Okay. Could we also use this jail, like build a new one, but can we also use this, what we have there also?
Depending on what we want to do. The efficiencies for the staffing efficiencies in the current jail are very, very bad. You know, you can put indirect supervision. I believe the standards are 52 prisoners per pod. You can have one corrections officer watching 3 pods. You can have one corrections officer overseeing about 150 prisoners. Right now, our ratio is about, I think it's about 12 to 1, just because of the fact that we can't see the prisoners. And, you know, we've got a lot of other issues with the infrastructure. We're having some problems with the electronic door locks. Where in the control room, they can't tell sometimes whether the door is locked or if it's not locked. That's a problem.
Not good.
You know, and when you have to get, when that occurs, then all of a sudden you've got to put a corrections officer in each one of those hallways, so as that you can see all of those doors. You know, it's an old building. It's a very old building.
When was that built?
The last major remodel was in the early 60s.
Bob?
If I might address a brief question to Sonny, could you give us kind of a hint on where the 30 million would come from, if not a millage issue?
You know, there's a number of things. We've got some bond monies that will probably pay off before those payments are due. We have some other bonds that will be paid off prior to that, so there won't be additional money. Our governor promises that we will have back revenue sharing when the new budget's passed. That's better than $750,000 a year to us.
30 million is a lot of dollars.
$200,000 or $2 million a year. We have to find a bond payment of $2 million a year to build a $30 million jail. But when it's built, we can operate that jail for approximately the same amount of money that we're spending to operate the current jail and have 50% more capacity because of the staffing levels.
Any other questions? Thank you much.
Thank you. If you don't mind, it's my wife's anniversary, so I'm going to try to
You better
stay
go.
out of
I think it's yours too, isn't it?
She got married, I didn't.
Yeah, right.
You talk like that, don't worry about it next year.
Okay.
Happy
item-
anniversary.
Yes, happy anniversary.
Item B is Station 10 Fire Report. I have a written report this evening. For April, there were 23 runs, 15 medical, 5 fire, 1 PIA, 1 PDA, and 1 other. 23 runs for April. Item C, Mark McCullough's here from the Road Commission.
Yeah, good news. We're running pretty smooth operationally. Hot roll season is, I know people are probably wondering about that, but it's kind of tailing off quickly. And this week was when we really started kicking off our work for the millage monies. And things are full steam ahead with that. Thought I would share the fact that the Road Commission received $3.5 million net on the millage funds. And the Road Commission has spent about $4.2 million on millage project. So we got $700,000 that came out of our general fund. So let's backtrack a minute and go back to last November when we were setting our budget. And we weren't really sure if the millage was going to pass or not. Well, I guess it was October. So we set our budget, and we didn't have the foresight at the time to realize, honestly, that if the millage was going to pass, that we would need to do a lot of prep work ahead of time internally with engineering, surveying, and getting our packages together for the request for bids and everything involved in that. Well, to our surprise and delay, the millage passed. That meant that we started spending at the tail end of last year and all through the winter months quite a bit, hundreds of thousands of dollars to prepare. We received the check in April, okay? We received a check for 3.5, but we have 4.2 basically spent for the year. So when you looked at the first of the year, basically we're $1 million in the hole on our budget. Through efficiencies and a number of other things, like efficiencies, we saved a tremendous amount of hours, man hours on our plowing this winter with our new technology and our new trucks. Something like 600 man hours, considering the winter. That's amazing. We reallocated money, our crew, from out in the field to going into doing millage projects instead of a third party, and we saved $600,000 on that. We received $448,000 from the state of Michigan one time for this severe winter, and that came in too last month. So what's going to happen tomorrow night is we're going to get to about as close to a zero balance budget for this month as what we possibly can. We've had to cut some maintenance program in terms of we want to do 30 miles of chip sealing throughout the county. Realistically, two issues. We don't have the money, and we don't have the man hours. We don't have the manpower either. So we'd have to farm that out, and that's more expensive for the particular stuff we were going to do. So we're going to cut back our chip seal program to about 10, 12 miles this year rather than 30, and probably reset it for next year at 20, which is a more realistic number. We have always had a schedule, we'll call it, that would, with our townships, it would be a schedule of the percentage that would be paid by the township, by the citizens, by the road commission in a cost-sharing project. Well, we monkeyed around with the schedule over the years, but we've never had a policy as to how to implement the selection of these projects. There's been no protocol because we've had very few participations over the last few decades because of funding with us and the townships and the villages. So it comes down to this, is that we now have to build a policy that then we can use as a tool with the cost sharing to figure out how we're going to do special assessment districts and matches from townships. Because now what's happening is with the millage money, a lot of people think that we've got all this money just sitting there. They don't realize that we are putting out $3 to $3.5 million or $4 million worth of projects through millage every year. And so that money's allocated. And so we have to use our local fund money a little more wisely And so we're actually gonna put it in our budget this coming year, this year, for next year, a set amount of dollars for matching our municipalities and our citizens for special assessment districts. And what we're probably gonna see is more emphasis on subdivisions, which is a great thing. We have plenty of subdivisions that are in rough shape. So it's the next step in our asset management plan to include townships and how we're gonna go about that, putting a policy with the cost sharing schedule and having a more rhyme or reason way of doing business. So other than that, things are going well and the guys are out. They're doing, I'll leave you with this. The maintenance had been let go so far on some of our roads that when recently we did South Airport Road, we took our graders out. We graded out and we cut the edge back so that we don't have water buildup, a hump in the road. Besides peeling out an awful lot of sprinkler heads that were in our right of way, and that didn't go real well, but we did notify everybody ahead of time. That on South Airport Road, we found 4 and 5 feet of asphalt that was covered up with sod. So we've opened those up, and when everything washes off and everything, those roads are gonna look very wide. And next winter, when we're plowing, we'll literally be able to plow those roads way back efficiently. So that we're discovering a lot of things in the last decade or two that just were let go. And that's maintenance that you don't see. It's not on the hard surface. That's what people expect is hard surface repair or replacement, but there's a lot of maintenance that goes into that you don't see. So kind of interesting.
Any questions for Mark?
If you want to come tomorrow night to the budget meeting, you can.
No, that's okay. Bob?
I have a question for Mark. I appreciate you coming out to talk to us out here in the far reaches. I did see them removing the turf over the pavement, and that answers my question, or one of my questions, what in the heck they were doing. Good for you. In relation to potholes, I've read, and I may be getting in way over my head, but there's new technologies available whereby instead of hot patching potholes, there is equipment that will grind up, let's say, or prepare a pothole space or a larger space and put a more or less permanent repair in there. So we don't have to do potholes on top of potholes on top of potholes.
There's cold patching, which blows out just to save time. Then there's the Dura patch, which is, well, you want to use cold patch for that, and then you heat it with propane. With the Dura patch machines now, I think at this point, hot mix is now available at this time of year, so we're doing hot mix out there with the Dura patch machine. But what you're referring to is an infrared machine. We had a crew up here last year to test something like that. At the corner of South Airport and Division, if you're heading on Division north, you take a right on South Airport Road, right there by the Schmuck Oil. They went through and did a full lane where the machine grinds, reconstitutes,
That's the one I'm talking about.
and melts it right back down around the corner. And if you go back and look at it,
I will.
it's not what we'd hoped.
Really?
It is a little expensive. It's a long process. It was a day for them to do that little section. And if you go look, it's already cracking and already rippling and so on.
That's too
So,
bad. That's too bad. It
It
didn't work.
is.
I would say that's
Well,
a safety problem with those crews out there.
I would say, Bob, it's gonna work in a lot of more mild climate, like maybe Indiana and southern and Midwest and so on. But in Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, not so much. But there are improvements in technologies. We look at it quite a bit. We're involved with CRAM, County Road Association in Michigan. We get magazines constantly on technologies in asphalt and cement, and we're reading. And we've got a foreman and a supervisor that are man, these guys are voracious readers, are looking, they're networking people, and they're bringing some technology, so it's interesting, but he brought that up last year. And they also did the, going down South Airport Road down to Holiday to Cass, they did all the manhole covers around. Those are holding up. So you can actually see the new asphalt and how it works. So yeah, it's an interesting process.
Yeah, it works, yeah.
Thank you
It's
for
time
the
to-
explanation.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
Any other public comment at this time?
I just wanted to expound upon the franchise agreement. What I've got to tell the board, and Karen has the information up there in front of her, but Charter was ninth in telecom bundles. This is countrywide, okay? It was 14th countrywide in TV service. It was 18th in internet service, and it was 14th in phone service. So that's just something, food for thought when you get to these franchise agreements.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have just one brief public comment. We would just like to alert the public that we could, the township could use your eyes and ears. We've had some ongoing vandalism in our park back here, where the kids, we think it's a group of kids that come in after maybe the games are completed or whatever. They have pushed recycling bins and stood on top of them and got up on the roof and are ripping off shingles on the restrooms out there, to the point they've done it so much that they're down to the bare wood and now that's leaking. So we've tried a variety of options to try and deter that, but so far it's ongoing. So if everybody would just kind of pass the word, and if you see a group of kids sort of hanging around, give a call and call one of us. You have our numbers, they're out there, or we'd just like to get it stopped because it's pretty destructive.
How about a motion camera or something like that?
Well, we talked about that, but they have BB guns and things, and I'm not sure how long that, I mean, if we even put it up high, how long that would last. So, anything that you
But
see.
you might see who's shooting at you.
Just so you're aware.
You can get a game cam for about $125.
Yeah, we talked about that.
We talked about that, but we
It's
think.
not, there's not a good place to put it.
It's wide open.
It's
isn't
wide
it?
open.
Yeah.
It's not a good place, but,
Yeah.
so,
We talked about.
Electrify it.
okay, we will move on to our pending business. Matt McDonough called me and he is ill today, so as far as an update, we don't have much, but he did want me to ask the board if they would consider the improvement on North Long Lake Road as our share, and the Conservancy then doing the entrance, the new entrance to the Timbers Trail Road and Park. So he could go out and get another bid and kind of get things scheduled. So I know we had talked about this before, and we had said that we have Metro monies that we could use for that. We have about, at the end of this year, we'll have about $55,000. That's the end of our fiscal year, which is June 30th. The quote that he cost share for us would be $27,000 thereabouts. So I'm open for discussion or any comments that you might have or thoughts.
I think this is what we discussed previously, and we felt it was a safety issue with that entrance to that particular area, especially with the hill there, so.
And the Metro funds we are able
Restricted.
to use on public roads, but are restricted for private roads. So that's why we had discussed what we had discussed. Any other comments from you guys?
Well, I think we should move ahead with it, for sure.
I agree. You need a motion for that, or?
Yes, I would need a motion for that.
Let's see, I'll make a motion to, and I want to put this township portion of the amount. Do you want to put the percentage down?
However you want to word it. He's given us an amount, I guess, up to that amount.
I'll make a motion, to approve the roads for Timbers Trail up to $27,000.
And that would be for the North Long Lake
The
Road portion,
North Long Lake Road portion, yes.
per the quote that Matt has given us.
Yes. Make any sense?
Is there support for that?
I'll support that, but I think it was $27.93.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. it is.
2793, correct,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Been moved and supported. Is there further discussion on this? Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. I will get with Matt on that. We do not have new business, but we do have a budget status or need a
Karen,
budget status.
I didn't hear the call for public comment on the, after Mark's remarks.
Yeah, I did, because
Oh, I'm sorry.
Peter spoke and Carol spoke, but I thought we were done.
Well, my hearing aids do part of the job, but not all of it. I'm sorry I missed it.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to reiterate, please excuse me, but I want to reiterate my comments from the earlier meeting about the investment in timbers, and I came here hoping to hear Matt's comments. But I would like to say again, since the board was unresponsive to my remarks last time, that an investment like this that is irreversible once it's on the county book or the township books, it's there forever. It's a sizable investment, $3 million. And there is no budget forecast for how much additional funds on a year-by-year basis the township is going to incur, and how much, if any, the taxpayers are going to feel in support of this project. I think the taxpayers deserve the consideration, and it would, if it's not much, if it's trivial, then that supports your case. If it's more than trivial, I think we would like to deliberate that a little bit. I can see where the expenses might be considerable, as some other townships have experienced with other major projects like this. A 10-year budget that the supervisor or treasurer or the board supports and is accountable for would be a useful document for the people who are residents and taxpayers in the township.
We will be working on that.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, back to the budget status. There's none.
There is no need
Need
for
one.
adjustment.
Okay, all right. So we will move on to payment of the bills.
We have the check register report, and that covers checks 32087 through 32097 in the amount of $1,316.81. Is there anything on there that I might elaborate on for you further? I think those are all just pretty much straightforward.
Madam Chairman, I would move that we accept the check registration report, checks 32087 through 32097 for $1,316.81.
Okay, Leonardson?
I'll support. We got it.
Was that shop?
Job, okay. Job supports that. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Schaub,
Yes.
Leonardson,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Rosa,
Yes.
Garvin,
Yes.
Hoffman votes yes.
Motion
Then we
is carried.
have the vendor approval summary, that